Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, everyone. I hope you all are doing good, fit and fine. Good morning, good morning. Yes, very good morning to all of you. So, guys, we are right now live on different platforms. We are live on Zoom also. We are live on uh, YouTube channel of VSmart also and YouTube channel of Ravi Tauri also. Okay, so uh, it won't be possible to see all the chats all the time, but then I will be able to see chats of the Zoom. If you want to join the Zoom session, simply go to the description, and from description you can get the link. As I said earlier in my video that some of the lectures will be available on YouTube, and then remaining lectures will be provided on our Audit Guru app. And in this special, these lectures are in complete English, full English. Okay, and if anyone is preferring Hindi and English mix, then I have given the link for those lectures also. If you are looking for notes from where to study uh, this particular chapter, then these notes are given. I have just now uploaded it on Audit Guru Telegram channel. Okay, so please go to Audit Guru Telegram channel. My sincere apologies, maybe because uh, our video may have some quality issues, minute quality issues, because our camera is malfunctioning. So that's fine. We'll have to bear with that. We don't have any option. So we are using a spare camera. Our main camera has gone to repairs. Okay, guys. Now we're starting with very interesting topic, super duper interesting topic, and that is professional ethics. We know that it can account for around 16 marks in examination, and these marks are very important because you can score 16 out of 16, because questions will be MCQ based or case study based, and if you can crack those cases, then you can get full marks. Now in theory subject, it is difficult to score full marks, but here it is comparatively easy to score full marks, and that's why this becomes so important. And there has been some changes also, so we are going to cover all those changes in these lectures. So let's start with the class, and I'll be happy to see your chats on the Zoom. You can continuously interact with me, because interaction is something that's very important for me. If you are interacting, then it's very easy for me to deliver my lecture, deliver my class. Great, I'm seeing a lot of interactions. That's wonderful. Yes, class will go on till 10:30. Just a minute, guys. Okay, so let's see the introduction. Introduction part is very simple. See, there's a very simple principle. Eye for eye will make whole world blind. Simple. If one person is hitting another, then other person is, I will also hit you. And if everyone is going to fight, then if everyone is going to fight, then this whole world will become blind. That's a very simple principle. Eye for eye will make whole world blind. On the same lines, if a person says that I am earning through fraud and other person gets inside, I also wants to earn through fraud. If everyone thinks that we want to earn through fraud, this world will become bankrupt one day. Because everyone is thinking that let's earn from fraud only. On the same lines, if one chartered accountant says that I am earning a lot of money through frauds and other chartered accountant gets inspired, then people will lose all the faith on the CA Institute and chartered accountancy profession. And unfortunately, people will lose all their faith, and then they may say that CA Institute is no longer required. We don't need them. It's of no use. So guys, it's very important that chartered accountant should remain ethical. Ethics are the principles which tell us what is morally correct and what is morally incorrect. So what is good, what is bad, and they tell us what should be done and what should not be done. It's very simple. Professional ethic means what things should be done and professionally what things should not be done. These are do's and don'ts in our professional lives, in our professional activities. In India, when we talk about chartered accountancy, it is governed by some documents. Let's understand. If you want professional ethics, what are the sources of professional ethics? Where are we going to get these professional ethics? Okay. So we are going to get it from CA Act, which is passed by Parliament. It is having the highest authority. So see, we have written in a beautiful sequence by CA Act, which is passed by Parliament. Then we are going to get it from rules. Rules are made by government as per the authority given by CA Act. So these rules also govern, but they are not in our course. So that is just for knowledge purpose. Then below that we have regulations. Regulations are issued by Council of ICAI as per the powers given by CA Act. As per the powers given by CA Act. Then guidelines which are issued again by Council of ICAI, but these are apart from the requirements of the CA Act. So now the regulations are issued as per the requirement of CA Act. Guidelines are issued over and above the requirements of CA Act. Plus a very important document, that is Code of Ethics. So when we talk about professional ethics for chartered accountants, these are the sources. CA Act is the source. Below that, rules by central government is the source. Below that, regulations issued as per the requirement of CA Act are the source. And then the guidelines issued by the council apart from the requirement of CA Act, they are the source. And then Code of Ethics. Code of Ethics is the source. Now listen guys, I would like to elaborate more about the Code of Ethics. We are going to study it later. So when we talk about Code of Ethics, recently new Code of Ethics is introduced. Applicable from 1st of July 2020. 1st of July 2020. It is divided into 3 volumes. We have volume 1, volume 2 and volume 3. In 3 parts. So when we talk about volume 1, it is based on code of ethics issued by International Ethical Standard Board, as ISBA, International Ethical Standard Board for Accountants. So it is having this particular volume 1 tells us the most important fundamental principles on which the whole ethics is based, and it further explains how to implement these fundamental principles in practical life. So we are having a small overview. We are having small overview in our course, not in complete detail, which we are going to see later. Not right now. Then, when we talk about volume 2, volume 2 is based on CA Act. It is based on CA Act. It is having important sections of CA Act which governs our professional lives. Schedule 1 and Schedule 2 to CA Act, along with clarifications, along with guidelines, clarifications, interpretations of the sections and the schedules of the CA Act. We are going to majorly focus on this. Our module and our notes are based on volume 2 of the Code of Ethics. And then we have volume 3. This is collection of case studies. Is a collection of the judgments passed by the courts, by the council, by board of disciplinary committee. We are going to see these are the various judgments with respect to professional misconduct. It's a collection of case studies, collection of judgments. So instead of case studies, we can better write is collection of judgments. Collection of judgments in cases of professional. We are going to study these terms later. Professional and other misconduct. So if chartered accountants did any unethical activity, then proceedings will be held against them for profession, other misconducts, and then judgments will be passed. So it's collection of those judgments. So there are 3 volumes. So now we know what are the sources. What are the sources of professional ethics? Just a minute, guys. Now, what are these fundamental principles? We are going to study about this later, and we are going to study this with the help of charts which we have recently made. But then we know this fundamental principle. To be ethical means, if you want to be ethical, we are supposed to follow 5 principles. Number 1, integrity, honesty. Integrity, being honest, being truthful, being straightforward, most important. Then, next, being unbiased. Don't come under pressure of any person, and don't work under the influence of money, influence of bribe, influence of personal benefits. Objectivity, being unbiased. Then, if you want to be ethical, be professionally updated, be competent. You should know about all the recent changes in the laws which govern the assignment, in the standards, accounting standards, Ind AS, auditing standards. You should be all updated, you should be aware about the changes, and you should work carefully. Being ethical means giving importance to your professional work, being updated, and then working carefully. Then, professional behavior. Respect the law which is applicable to the assignment. Respect the law, respect the regulatory authorities, fulfill their expectations, and don't do anything which brings disrepute to the institute, which discredits the institute. Don't do something which is going to spoil name of ICAI. That's called professional behavior. And lastly, maintain confidentiality. People have shown a lot of faith on you. Maintain that trust. Don't breach this confidentiality. Otherwise, clients will not share any information with you. So it's very simple, straightforward. Be honest. Don't come under pressure, or don't come under greed. You should not be under pressure. You should not be under the greed. Be updated and work carefully. Professional competence and due care. Show professional behavior. Respect the law. Don't disrepute. Don't do anything which is going to bring disrepute the institute, and maintain confidentiality. These are 5 fundamental principles, and on these principles, everything else is based. This is a foundation of professional ethics. There is a shortcut also. CBI office explains what are the fundamental ethical principles. CBI office. C for competence and due care. C for confidentiality. B for behavior, professional behavior. I for integrity. O for objectivity. Either ways, there are 2 ways of remembering it. Either you go with the logical flow. Logical flow is the which principle is the most important. I think this is the most logical flow. Or otherwise you can have mnemonic also. Okay. Now, first thing which we are going to target is CA Act. Now, all the sections of CA Act are not important. All the sections are not important, guys. But then we are going to focus on we are just going to take overview of the CA Act, and we are going to focus on the important sections only. Okay. Let's see. So CA Act is divided into a lot of chapters. This thing is not very important. It's only for the purpose of overview. We have chapter number 1, which is having section 1 and 2, which is about applicability of CA Act, and definition. Then after that, we have section 3 to section 8, which is regarding membership. Most important thing, membership of CA Institute. How person can become member of ICAI. Then you are going to need a body, governing body, which is going to regulate the whole profession, regulate the whole profession, and regulate all the members. So that governing body is council. So for council, we have section 9 to 18. For central council, which is going to govern the whole profession and all the members, we have section 9 to 18. It's very simple to remember in the flow. 1 and 2 is basics, applicability of the act and definition. 3 to 8, then 3 to 8 is about membership. Then 9 to 18 is about central council. Then 19 and 20 is about register to be maintained. There should be a register which should give detail who are the members of the institute who can provide accountancy services in India. Then we have section 21 to 22G. That's most important for us. Most important for us. It tells us which activities, it is going to tell us which activities will be considered as wrong, that means misconduct, which activities will be considered as professional misconduct, which activities will be considered as other misconduct, and so it's going to give us list of things. And if any chartered accountant does a misconduct, then how proceedings will be done against him and how he is going to be punished. So that is given in section 21 to 22G, that is chapter 5. Then we have section 23, that is about regional councils. That one central council is not going to be sufficient. One central council will not be sufficient to manage all the members, all the regions. So we have regional councils. Then we have section 24 to 28, that is regarding fines and penalties. Then a new series was introduced, 28A to 28D, that is about quality review. So we study the chapter quality review. So the source of that is from the CA Act, Professional Ethics. And then we have miscellaneous, section 29 to section 23. It's very simple, straightforward. 1 and 2, applicability and definition. 3 to 8, membership. 9 to 18, council. 19-20, register. 21-22G is regarding misconducts and how to proceed in misconduct. 23 is regarding council. 24-28 regarding fines and penalties. 28A to D is regarding quality review, and then miscellaneous. No need to remember this. It's just an overview. You should know that there are around 33 sections and 8 chapters. That will be sufficient if you know that there are 33 sections and 8 chapters in CA Act. Now next is, first is section number 1. Section number 1 is regarding applicability. We have section number 1. This is regarding applicability of CA Act. Okay. CA Act is applicable to whole of India, including Jammu and Kashmir. Okay. So geographically it is applicable to whole of India, including Jammu and Kashmir. Geographical applicability. When we talk about time frame, it got applicable from 1st of July 1949, and that's why we have 1st of July as CA Day, because this is the day from which CA Act became applicable, it became functional. But then Jammu and Kashmir, it got applicable from 1968, 15th of August 1968. That is not having any relevance or importance. That's fine. As on today, it's applicable to the whole of India. That is important. But then when we talk about people, persons to whom it is applicable, majority of the provisions, definitely the whole act, in fact, majority, 99% of the provisions are for chartered accountants, and chartered accountants means members of ICAI. These guys, they may be working in India or outside India. Now that's interesting. That's interesting. Because as you study many of the sections, it is clearly said that it is applicable to all the chartered accountants. That means all the members of ICAI, even if they are working in India or outside India, that doesn't matter. That's interesting, because this is going to be useful in few cases, that it is applicable to all the chartered accountants, whether they are working in India or they are working outside India. Don't worry about this. When we are going to see case studies, it will get covered automatically. Now, so that was Now we have very important section number 2. It gives us definition. And the most important definition is concept of members deemed to be in practice. Okay. Listen guys. So in our Bhaskar note, many of you must be aware, we have provided super linking. What is super linking? Next to each concept, each concept you can see in red CNO 654, 655, 655.050 and so on. Next to each concept, you are going to get question numbers. You are going to get question numbers. Okay, so these are the question numbers you are supposed to study. And you are also going to get the MCQs. So as soon as you complete lecture, you are aware these are the questions which I am supposed to study today. These are the MCQs which I am supposed to study today. I am going to provide you audio lecture of the audio revision of the each lecture, and apart from that, I am also planning to give you videos which are going to cover all the questions and MCQs also. So got a lot of plans. The only limiting factor is time. So I wish if I would have got more time, I would have done more and more, and that too as soon as possible. Okay. Let's see guys. Now what is this concept of members deemed to be in practice? As we'll go ahead and see that 95% of the provisions of the CA Act, law, rules, regulations, everything, 95% of that is only for those chartered accountants who have taken COP from ICAI and they are into public practice. So 95% of the professional ethics, all the requirements of CA Act is for those chartered accountants who are in practice. So that means those who are in practice, they have lot of obligations under the CA Act. And now other chartered accountants, they are relaxed, they are free from burden. They are relaxed, they are free from burden because many of the provisions are not applicable to them. Okay. So because of this concept that 95% is applicable to one category and almost nothing is applicable to another category. Because of this thing, chartered accountants are sometimes hesitant to take certificate of practice. Because as soon as they take certificate of practice, everything will get applicable to them. So, what some chartered accountants thought, I will do practice related work without taking COP. That means I am going to earn money through practice and I will protect myself, save myself from all the obligations, because I am not taking COP. So basically, some chartered accountants tried to act smart. So, try to act smart. Now, lawmakers were aware. Some chartered accountants will try to do this. They will try to act smart. So, they have this very interesting and very simple deeming fiction. What it says, basically section 2, subsection 2, it gives list of activities that if a chartered accountant is found doing these activities, we are going to assume that that chartered accountant is in practice even if he has not taken COP. We are going to assume that, and we are going to make whole professional ethics applicable to him. And if he is not complying with anything, he will be punished for it. So this deeming fiction is basically for over smart chartered accountants, extra smart, over smart chartered accountants. You all must be having some friends, some relatives or some neighbors who act extraordinary smart even when they are not. even when they are not. Correct? So those who are trying to act, those who are trying to act super smart, so it's for them to bring them under the domain of practice and make professional ethics applicable to them. Now listen guys, in section 2, subsection 2, section 2, subsection 2, we have clause 1, clause 1, clause 2, clause 3, clause 4. There are 4 clauses. Now you never get this question, what is written in clause 1, what is written in clause 2, what is written in clause 3, what is written in clause 4. Then why to spend our time and energy in studying in that manner? Okay, so we have clause section 2, subsection 2, we have clause 1, clause 2, clause 3, and clause 4 is very interesting. Clause 4 says that council has power to increase this list of activities. So clause 4 gives council power that if you want, you can increase this list of activity as and when required as per your understanding. So way back they increased this list by issuing regulation 191, and then in 2006-7 they again increased the list by issuing list of activities under heading management consultancy services. Okay, these are simply list of activities. If a chartered accountant is found doing these activities, he will be deemed to be in practice. We have clause 1 to 3. Clause 4 gives power. Under this power, institute has issued 2 things. They have issued regulation 191 and then further they have issued one more list that's called management consultancy services. Now guys, don't study this particular topic like DT, IDT or law. Please don't study it like that. Otherwise, you are going to get hell confused. Correct? Don't study it as per that. Now in DT, IDT and law, DT, IDT and when we talk about law, these are all recent laws. They are recent laws. They are updated on regular basis. There are a lot of rules on interpretation, lot of case laws for interpretation. They are highly polished and very high quality laws, rules and regulation. They're regularly updated. Very good set. In that set, words are given a lot of importance. And all the interpretation happens with the help of the words and statements. But then when we talk about C Act, it's a very old act, 1949. It's a very, very old act, 1949. The frequency of amendment is extremely low. The last time it was amended was 2007. And frequency of issuing regulation is also extremely low. So what I want to say, this is not a very high, see, this is very important act for us as professional and for studies also. But I am explaining that if you see from law point of view, it is not a very high quality legislation, very high quality rules and regulations. And in this, interpretation is going to happen with the help of words. But then more than that, we have to understand how Council of ICAI interprets it. That is extremely important. So in some places you will find that interpretation of council, guidelines of council, clarifications of council are sometimes different from what section says. or what regulation says this may happen. It may be little different or little weird. Don't worry much about it. Don't worry much about it. Try to understand what is the intention of the council, why they did this. Try to understand that intention and then go with that intention and interpretation. Don't be bothered much, otherwise people get lost. Sir, this is the word in this particular section or clause, and this is what clarification is given. They are contradicting with each other. What to do now? It's very simple. Follow the clarifications given by the council. They are having some important intention. Simply follow that. And that's what courts do. That's what government do. Government says that Council of ICAI is more knowledgeable. Court says that Council of ICAI is more knowledgeable. They know about the recent changes. They know about the challenges. So interpretation made by them, clarification made by them is having so much of importance that sometimes it may be little different from the sections or regulation. Little different, I am saying, not extremely different, little different. Okay. Now, guys, I am going to give you explanation also, and apart from that, I am going to tell you how to remember things. That's extremely important, because in audit, we have to remember things also. So here we have, see what I have written. We have section 2, subsection 2. I have given you the structure. Combined interpretation of all the clauses in section 2, subsection 2. Okay, let's have the combined interpretation. So if a chartered accountant will be deemed to be in practice if he does below given activities for remuneration received or receivable. For remuneration received or receivable. So if chartered accountant does any activity without any charges, suppose he is doing any activity as a charity, he is doing accounting of an NGO, he is doing accounting of an NGO as a charity, he is giving financial consultancy as a charity, correct? Then he will not be deemed to be in practice. So if a chartered accountant is doing any work for remuneration, then he will be deemed to be in practice. If he is doing for charity, it will not be deemed to be in practice. And it should be in professional capacity. That means contract of giving service should be in his name. That means professional capacity. That means he must be involved in giving professional services. If he is working, so contract should be in his name. That means it should be a professional thing. If he is working as an employee, he is not under obligation to give final services to the client. His boss is under the obligation. CA firm is under the obligation. He is working only as an employee. If he is working only as an employee in a capacity of employee, contract of giving service is not in his name. Again, deemed to be in practice will not get applicable. Or if he is working in personal capacity, that means he is helping friends, relatives and friends, okay, then again this deeming fiction will not get applicable. So it's very simple. The concept of deemed to be in practice will get applicable to chartered accountant only if he is working for remuneration and he is working in professional capacity as a person doing practice, either individually or in partnership with CA or other specified professionals. Okay. Now what is this list? Let's focus on this particular list. What I have done, I have divided the list in two parts. So there are practice related points, even their service job related points. We'll see it later. Let's see. Now, guys, these activities are covered in logical sequence. So, if any chartered accountant, after becoming CA, describe himself to public, it describes to everyone that he is a public accountant, he is involved in accountancy services. He describes that, yes, I am involved into accountancy services. Moment he describes himself that he is involved in accountancy services, he is provider of accounting services, he will be deemed to be in practice. See, it's in logical sequence. If he after becoming chartered, if he describes, he will be deemed to be in practice. Then next, if he goes and sets up the office, if he sets up the office, that again he will be deemed to be in practice. Then next, he offers accounting or auditing services, or performs accounting or auditing services, or any related activities like accounting consultancy, preparation of books of accounts, records, any kind of verification, any kind of audit. Even if he offers or performs any kind of accounting or auditing services, he will be deemed to be in practice. Apart from accounting and auditing, if he gives advisory or represent clients in any of the tax, costing or financial matters, if he gives any kind of advisory or he represent client in tax, costing, finance, again deemed to be in practice. These are basically our subjects, these are our domain. See, as I said, it is arranged in a logical manner. After becoming chartered, if you describe, deemed to be in practice. Office setup, deemed to be in practice. Offers, even if you offer, deemed to be in practice. If you perform, deemed to be in practice. Tax, costing, finance, advisor, representative, deemed to be in practice. Then they had Regulation 191. Regulation 191. It was issued way back. It was issued. If chartered accountant is doing any work where a lot of money is involved, lot of fortune is in, lot of money, wealth, assets are involved, he should behave ethically. Again, he will be deemed to be in practice. So we have an individual person who dies. Now he has his will, and he has distributed his assets to family members, to society, charity, etc. You need a person who will read the will, interpret the will, and do the allocation and distribution. Such person is called executor. Now, those who have studied from me, I am in love with the sequence. I love the flow because I know that it plays very important role in memorizing things. If you want to memorize things, it's very important to have very fluid, very lucent, very simple flow. So if an individual dies, and if any chartered accountant is appointed as executor, he will be deemed to be in practice. Now, in case of company, if debentures appoint any chartered accountant as a receiver, we appoint you as a receiver, you sell the assets and get our money. Again, deemed to be in practice. If in company, now before we go to company, so bigger than the individual is trust. So if any chartered accountant appointed as trustee, it's a very responsible position. You need to ensure that assets are used properly for the beneficiaries, and many times beneficiaries can be public at large. Or in case of companies appointed as receiver, or when companies getting closed, you sell all the assets and pay off the liabilities, appointed as liquidator. Okay. or in case of dispute, chartered accountant is appointed as arbitrator, or court appoints it, or court appoints him as administrator or arbiter. See, court say that till the time dispute is going on, so and so chartered accountant will be appointed as administrator to run the business, to run this factory, and so on. Again, it's a very responsible job. So in these six cases, if chartered accountant is appointed, given this particular role, he will be again deemed to be in practice. Even if he has not taken COP, again deemed to be in practice. Okay. Now, next is important, seventh. If he is appointed as secretary, the most important person in any ministry is secretary. These are generally IS officers. You must have heard about it. Finance secretary, defense secretary, home secretary. These are the IS officers. Sometimes chartered accountant can be appointed at this particular position. These are very important position. Chartered accountants may be appointed at this particular position. Then they are called secretary to central government, secretary to state government. Secretary to central government, secretary to state government. Now, if you're appointed at this important position, again it will be deemed to be in practice. But then there is a clarification. If all these appointments are on salary cum full-time basis, that means you are appointed as an employee, then deeming fiction will not get applicable. That's very simple, deeming fiction, and we have already studied it. So it's a mere clarification that if these appointments are on salary cum full-time basis, then you're working like an employee, then deeming fiction is not going to apply. Okay, it's very simple, straightforward. So guys, as I said, it's in a sequence. Describing, setting up office, offering, performing, advisory, representative, doing this work where a lot of money is involved, a lot of stake is involved, everything is deemed to be in practice. Now, it's an exception. Service related, yes. Sometimes chartered accountants in service. Sometimes chartered accountants in service are deemed to be in practice. Now, this is very unique situation, a weird situation. A person who is doing job, deeming fiction is imposed on it. There is a reason for it. If a chartered accountant is working as an employee, salaried employee under any chartered accountant in practice or CA firm in practice, you must have seen this. Come on, tell me guys, have you seen such things? That a chartered accountant is working under another CA in practice or another CA firm? That's a very common thing. You will see many chartered accountants doing this, of course, isn't it? You see in mid-sized firms, big firms, big four firms, you see chartered account, very common thing. Now these guys, they are working as employee. Then also deeming fiction will be made applicable to them. But don't be worried. It is not to put obligations on them. No. It is not to put obligations on them. Then why? It is for limited purpose to give them right to train article. It is for limited purpose to give right to train articles. I don't know if you are aware. CAs who are working under another CA or CA firm, practicing CA or CA firm, they can train one article. Are you aware about this? Have you heard about this before? They can train one article. Now a chartered accountant who is in practice, he may train up to 10 articles. He may train up to 10 articles depending on his seniority. We are going to see later. But a chartered accountant who is working as an employee under another CA or CA firm, he cannot train 10 articles, he can train 1 article. So this deeming fiction is not to put any obligation. This deeming fiction is to give him right to train article. And there's a condition. That's again just for the knowledge. If he's having the job experience of 3 years or more. If there's a chartered account having job experience of 3 years or more, and currently he is working under CA firm, he is deemed to be in practice for limited purpose of right to train 1 article. For limited purpose of right to train 1 article. He will not be under any obligations. So this deeming fiction is unique. This deeming fiction is unique. It is wonderful. It is unique, it is wonderful. Okay? Because you are not getting any obligation, you are getting right. Okay. Then if a chartered accountant is working with armed forces, if you are working with military, you are working with air force, okay, you are working with navy, again you are doing very important work, very important work. You will be deemed to be in practice so that your behavior is always ethical. Okay guys, so we have covered deeming fiction. Now, they have increased this particular list by issuing one more list, and that is called as Management Consultancy Services. ICAI extended list of these activities by issuing a brand new list that's called management consultancy services. Now, please tell me guys if you got any doubts. Please put on the chat on Zoom or guys, we are going to have, so I'm going to see some chats. If you got any doubt guys, you can put it here. Yeah, good morning guys. Okay, if you got any doubt, just put it on the chat. Okay, so no doubts at all, sir. Everything is fine, everything is going good, fantastic. Yes. If a chartered accountant is working under another CA or CA firm, okay, he will be able to train 1 article only. Because he is into job. If any chartered accountant has COP, certificate of practice, and he is a partner, a certificate of practice, he can train up to 10 articles. So it's very simple. CA employee. It's very simple. CA employee can train 1 article, and CA having COP can train up to 10 articles. That is the basic difference. We are going to discuss about portfolio management services later. Okay. Let's see guys, then we'll go for break by 8:30. It's very simple. We are going to have first session 7 to 8:30 and then the next session after 10 minutes break up to 10:30. Now let's see. Now let's see this wonderful list of management consultancy services. Okay. Now what is the importance of this list? Number one, if people are doing activities which are given in this list, if people are doing activities given in this list, they will be deemed to be in practice. That is the first implication. That's the first implication. Okay. Then next is it increases scope of existing chartered accountants who are in practice. It's wonderful. That means it increases the scope. That means existing chartered accountants can perform these activities as these are considered as practice related activities. So this list increases the scope of activities which can be performed by chartered accountants, those who are in practice. So second implication is it increases the scope, it increases the scope, it increases the horizon, it increases the domain of existing chartered accountants who are in practice. They can provide such services. It increases their scope, their domain. So that is interesting. Third interesting thing is you can perform these activities either in traditional form. You can perform it either in traditional form, as a individual practitioner or as a partnership firm. And second, that this can be done in the corporate form also. It can be in corporate form also by making management consultancy company, MCC, management consultancy company. That's wonderful. So these activities can be done in traditional form also, as an individual or as a partnership firm, and this can be done in modern form, in a corporate form also, by making management consultancy company. So you can compete with the big fours by making company also. That's interesting. We can create management consultancy company for this. And fourth very interesting point, few activities are excluded from management consultancy services. That means, and because of this, you will not be able to perform these activities in corporate form by making MCC. You will have to do this only in the traditional form. Some activities are excluded from the definition of management consultancy services. Why they are excluded? So that these activities are very sensitive, very important. They should be done in traditional form only, where individual person or partner becomes directly responsible. Which are these activities? Accounting. You cannot make a company and give accountancy services. This is because of section 25. We are going to study it later. So, you cannot make a company and give accountancy services. You cannot make company and give statutory audits and periodical audits. You cannot go for statutory and periodical audits. You cannot give tax consultancy services. Tax. And fourth, you cannot do activities given in regulation 191. Executor, receiver, liquidator, administrator, arbitrator. You cannot do these things. You cannot do these things. You cannot do these things in corporate form. It's very simple, guys. So there are four implications because of management consultant services. Number one, if any chartered accountant is doing these activities deemed to be in practice, it is going to increase, it enhances, increases scope of existing practitioners. They can do more activities. Third, you can have traditional form also. You can have traditional form also, and you can have this corporate form also. And fourth, you won't be able to provide some services in corporate form. No, not allowed. Accountancy not allowed, prohibited by section 25. Statutory and periodical audits not allowed because they're excluded from the definition of MCS. Tax consultancy not allowed. Tax consultancy not allowed because tax consultancy again not allowed because it is excluded from the definition of MCS. Liquidation etc. services not allowed. Again, it is excluded from the definition of MCS. So when we talk about these services, these services can be given only in traditional form. Now guys, we have already seen now let's see this complete list. Let's see this complete list. We have already discussed that some of the things are excluded and there's a reason behind it. CA Institute doesn't want corporate form to be used for some services because they're very sensitive. Very sensitive. They want these things to be done only in traditional form. So that's why when defining MCS, see what is the importance of MCS? What is one of the most important thing of MCS? You can use the traditional form also and you can use the corporate form. So the most important thing is for providing MCS, you can use corporate form. That's the most important thing. You can use the corporate form. But CA Institute didn't want corporate form in some practices, in some services. That's why they excluded them. No accountancy, no auditing, no taxation, and no regulation 191 activities. Now, we have a complete list. We have a complete list. Complete list of the management consultancy services. Okay. See, I'm not going to see doubt on continuous basis. Okay. I'm going to see doubts only when I say so. Even if you put See, during the class, you may ask doubt when I ask you to ask doubts. And after the class, you can ask all the doubts you have after the class, or you can ask all the specific doubts. We answer each and everything. You have to go to auditguru.in website, and there is a discussion point area. Put all your doubts there. Put all your doubts there, we'll answer it. This class will go till 10:30. We have a fixed schedule in which we are supposed to complete this class. So class will go till 10:30. We are not going to curtail it till 10 o'clock. So that's not possible. We are going to cover professional ethics, company audit, and related topics in this particular class. Some classes will be available through YouTube, and rest of the classes will be available through our app. For limited time, we'll provide it on our app. Correct? For limited time. See, we cannot give courses completely free of cost, guys. That's not possible. People pay a lot for these classes. People pay around 8,000, 9,000 for these classes. We respect them, so we are not going to make it completely free. For limited time, it will be there. For limited time, it will be there. It's an opportunity for others who can use this opportunity to cover their course or revise their course. Chartered accountant can get COP immediately. Moment you become chartered accountant, you can apply for COP and you will get COP. You don't need any extra experience for that. That was a doubt. And I have already discussed what is the relevance and importance of management consultancy services. There are 4 important points with respect to management consultancy services. And as I said, you got any doubt, guys, you can post it on the site. And if you want to talk to me, time keeps changing. Right now, I'm available from evening 7 to 7:30. 7 to 7:30, you can talk to me. But first post doubt on the site, and if it is not solved there, then you can talk to me. Okay. See, we have to make these things to give quality services and to give. You will get all the details in the description. You will get all the details in the description. On which app I am being asked. Description, if you see the YouTube, you will get all the description. It's on Audit Guru app. My number is 9096 000033 7020 699 683. Majority of time you are going to find that this number is switched off. We are taking doubts, but we cannot take doubts on. We will definitely take doubts in the live class, but I cannot entertain doubts after every sentence. I cannot entertain doubt after every sentence. Correct? That's what I meant to say. Please post doubt when I ask you to, or you can post them on continuous basis. I will take them when I take a break from my flow. Definitely you can ask doubts in the live class. Don't feel offended. And so as I said, majority of time these numbers will be switched off. Okay. In fact, right now also it is switched off. So please try between 7 to 7:30 only. CA deemed to be in practice can train one article, but will there be any requirement that he need to Mr. Nand Kishore, please, uh, please again count. It is 10 digit only. My mobile number, so okay, it is not 11 numbers. This is not 1. This is oblique. Okay. Uh, Definitely you see, there is no we are not going to the procedural parts. We are not going to procedural parts or forms. Okay, definitely there will be articleship registration form which need to be filled up. Only articleship registration form need to be filled up, and in which we need to give details of this employee who is working with us and is having adequate experience of 3 years or more, and he can train one article. Definitely in forms we need to mention which is that particular employee under whom one article is getting registered. Okay. Now let's see. Now guys, there's a complete list, and there's a huge list. There's a complete list and huge list on what do you mean by what are the activities included. What are the activities included management management consultancy services? Okay. Now what students generally do, students generally read this list once. One time they are going to read this list, and they read once, twice, and then it's up to chance. If they remember, they will solve the case study. If they don't remember, they will not be able to solve the case study. So what I have done, we have devised a way, we have devised a way, we have devised a way, we have devised a technique. We have devised a way, we have devised a technique to remember all these. Let's see one by one. What we have done, we have arranged it in a logical sequence. In a logical sequence. Now, what is this logical sequence? Just think about it. What are the different services a company is going to need from the inception, till the end? Just think about it, and you will get and will be able to remember the whole list. Now, prior to incorporation, company is going to need services of project reports, feasibility studies. They will need professionals who can make project reports, who can make feasibility studies. That is covered in MCS. Okay. Then, so providing feasibility studies, providing project reports is covered in management consultancy services. Then, after incorporation, first thing any company is going to do is to raise money. For raising money, they need to decide what will be capital structure. What will be capital structure? So, helping company in deciding capital structure, that is part of MCS. Helping company to raise money, that is part of MCS. acting as an advisor to public issue. When they want to raise money through public issue, acting as an advisor, that is covered in MCS. Acting as a registrar to issue in case of IPOs and FPOs, again that is covered in MCS. When we talk about acting as advisor, you can help company in making the prospectus, doing publicity of the issue, you can help in selecting the agents, brokers who will work in the issue. You can help in post issue matters of giving shares, allotting shares, etc. So all this will be covered in MCS. So activities related to fundraising like deciding capital structure, helping in fundraising, helping in IPO, FPO, working as a registrar, all this thing will covered in MCS. So it's beautifully drafted, beautifully logically drafted in a sequence, and this sequence is going to be extremely important. Before incorporation, we have services, that is covered in MCS. After incorporation, there is fundraising related services are covered in MCS. Once you get money, you will do planning for the business activities. You will do planning related activity. So you can help in framing business policy, framing the business policies, which particular sector we are going to target, which businesses we are going to start first, and then how we are going to diversify and expand that business policy. Chartered accountants can help in doing corporate planning. How many holding companies will be there, ultimate holding companies will be there, subsidiaries will be there, associates will be there, that corporate planning. Organization development plan. How many departments, so overall business policy, then corporate planning, then organization development plan, how many departments will be there. Then once everything is done, chartered accountants can make budgets, capital budgets, revenue budgets, cash budgets. See, it's all connected. If you study in this flow, you will remember quickly. You will remember things quickly. Very fast you will remember things. Then, after this, staffing. We can help in staffing. That's very important. See, I have put star marks on the activities which are extremely important from exam point of view. From exam point of view, personal recruitment. Chartered accountants can help in recruiting. Chartered accountants can help in recruiting employees. They can take interviews. Evaluate people, their skill sets. Yes, that is allowed. After recruitment, they can help in training people. That's called development of human resource. They can help in building organization structure, hierarchy in the organization, who is going to report to which particular person, and then who they are going to report, and so on. So they can make a complete structure, hierarchical organization structure, reporting structure, authority structure. Then when people work, how they should be paid. They can help in making incentive plans. They can help in recruiting people, then developing them, then creating structure for them, then creative incentive plans for them. Then they can help. See, production is work of engineers. We cannot directly, after all these things, we cannot directly help in production, but we can definitely help in working capital. What you need, most important thing in any production activity is working capital. So we can help in working capital management, how to reduce the quantum of stock, debtors, how to do business activity in least possible working capital. We can help in inventory, working capital management, in that inventory management, handling storage. We can maintain cost records. We can maintain cost records. We can do management accounting. After maintaining that, with the help of that, we can do cost control. We can help in maintaining management accounting, MIS. With the help of that, we can give cost control. We can do value analysis and improve efficiency. We can do value analysis and improve efficiency of the activities. So that's fantastic. MCS covers pre-incorporation activity, then it covers fundraising related activities, then it covers planning related activities, then it covers staffing related activities, then it covers working capital related activities. See, this is a memory technique. We are grouping things. We have grouped it into small parts. Now let's remember the groups and then remember activities given in the group. This will make things very easy to remember. Then, so prior to incorporation is done, after that fundraising is done, after that planning is done, after that staffing is done, after that working capital, and cost related activities are done. Now the product is ready. Product is ready. We can help in pricing. We can do market research. We can do market related and demand related research activities, and we can help in determining the prices and price related decisions on how should be the discounts, what should be the schemes. Then once we sell the goods, we can help in recovery also. We cannot become recovery agents. We cannot become recovery agent. No, that is not allowed. But we can become recovery consultants. We can become recovery consultants, and that too in banking sector. We can become recovery consultants in banking sector, guys. Now that's interesting. Only in banking sector. That means we can give them consultancy. If you want to recover this loan, okay, reduce amount of EMI. We can restructure the loans. We can ask them to give additional amount so that business works properly. Cash is generated and it is used for repayment. So we can act as a consultant. We cannot go with gundas. Take gundas and go and recover the money. We cannot go with the goons. Correct? That is not allowed. So we can help in pricing, then recovery also, then making statements. Yes, we can make profitability statement, not accounting. In MCS we cannot do accounting, but we can make profitability statements, fund flow statements, a profitability statement. What is the per unit profitability, per employee profitability, per factory profitability, per sales executive profitability, and so on. We can make profitability statements. We can make fund flow statements, cash flow statements. Then after earning money, we can help in money management and investment, and then valuation. Yes, we can help in financial management policies. We can help in financial management policy, how company should manage its finance. We can help in that. We can help in investment. We can do investment counseling. Now that's extremely important. We can help in investment counseling. We can help in investment counseling. We can give investment advisory. You should invest in short-term funds. You should invest in liquid funds, arbitrage funds. Just a minute, guys. Just a minute. Okay. Now, that's very interesting. We can help in investment counseling. Guys, we can help in investment counseling. Just a minute, guys. There's some. Okay. Now we're back. Uh, we can do investment counseling. We can give advisory. Invest in balance funds, which mutual fund schemes, and so on. But very interesting. We cannot. This is a very famous question. We cannot do broking. We cannot become brokers. We cannot become brokers of NSE, BSE, or any other stock exchange. We cannot become brokers. Not allowed. Not allowed. We cannot become brokers. We cannot provide underwriting services. We cannot do portfolio management. We cannot give portfolio management services also. No portfolio management services. Even that is not allowed. That's very, it has been asked again and again so many times. It has been asked again and again so many times. Chartered accountants in practice, it is not covered in MCS. Chartered accountants in practice can give advisory. They cannot go for broking. They cannot go for underwriting. They cannot go for portfolio management. Then some of you must be thinking, why the hell we are being taught portfolio management? Those who are in practice, they cannot do it. You don't take COP. Don't take COP. Don't take COP. You can go for broking. You can go for underwriting. You can go for portfolio management. No problem at all. Are you getting this point? So after earning money, we can go for investment counseling. We can also help. We can also help in valuation of shares. That's valuation of shares, amalgamations and merger. Once you have money, if you want to buy shares, we can help in valuation also. We can help in amalgamation merger also. Then, that's very interesting. We can do special audits. Special audits are covered in MCS. That means these audits can be done in corporate form. Management audit can be done, operational audit can be done, quality audit can be done, energy audit can be done, environment audit can be done. Statutory audits and periodical audits, statutory audits like company audit, tax audit, and earlier we had GST audit. That cannot be done. That cannot be done in corporate form. That cannot be covered. That is not covered in MCS and corporate form. Okay. But these audits can be done. Management audits, operation audit, quality audit, energy audit, environment audit. These audits can be done. They are covered in MCS. They can be done in corporate form. So these things are very simple. These are covered in MCS and they can be done in corporate form. That's the most important part of the MCS, that it can be done in corporate form. Then apart from that, system and insurance related activities. System and insurance related activities can be done in corporate form. It's absolutely fine. System analysis can be done. Insurance financial advisory. You cannot become life insurance agent. That is not allowed. You cannot become life insurance agent. You cannot become health insurance agent. No, 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 no. You can give insurance financial advisory. Sir, what is that? Insurance financial advisory can be done in corporate form. Insurance financial advisory can be done in corporate form. Yes. You have to make a company, take a license, and then you have to do insurance advisory. This service is given by making a company, and you give it to big corporates, and you need a separate license for that. See, I'm collecting all the points. It's very simple. We can do pre-incorporation related activities, we can do fund related activities, we can do planning activities, we can do staffing activities, we can do working capital management related activities, we can do pricing related activities, we can do recovery related activities, we can make statements after earning money, we can do money management, then we can do special audits, and then we can do system and insurance. This is the best way to remember this big list. Okay. Now further, one more point. As I said earlier, you cannot give tax consultancy services. That is not allowed. You cannot give tax consultancy services in MCS. But if your main intention is to give financial services, you can cover the tax point of view. That is allowed. That is allowed. Tax advisory is allowed in four things. If you are framing, if initially you are framing you are making project reports, while making project reports, you can explain tax related points also. It is allowed. While making capital structuring advisory, you can include tax related points. It is allowed. Because this advice will not be complete without tax advisory. So, see, complete tax advisory is not covered in MCS. No. But then, along with feasibility, you can explain related tax points. Along with capital structure, you can explain related tax points. Then, along with financial management policy, you can explain tax related points. Along with working capital, you can explain tax related points. In notes, you can see that we have given it hashtag. Now, content in brown is recently added. We can provide administrative services. What is that? Now clients need a lot of services. In the sense, client needs someone who can maintain all the Word documents and Excel documents. So we can, administrative services means management services. Administrative services means supporting services, management services can be given. That means we can maintain the Word and Excel files. We can maintain Word and Excel files. On the base of that files, we can fill up we can prepare administrative or statutory forms. We can maintain files. On that basis, we can prepare the forms. After preparing forms, then we can help in filing also. We can monitor the dates when filing need to be done, advising the client how filing need to be done. So we can help We can help in monitoring the dates and advisory. We can help in submitting such forms. So we can help give services like GST practitioner. We can maintain the Word and Excel files. We can prepare forms and returns for them. We can monitor the filing dates, then submit those forms. We can help like GST practitioner. Just like GST practitioner does a lot of things with related to GST, such kind of things only. We can help in that also. So chartered accountant in practice can give administrative services in the name of management consultancy services. We can go for valuation of shares. Now that's a very lucrative area, and it's this area is people are earning a lot of money nowadays in this valuation of shares. You, after becoming chartered accountant, you can clear the exams of valuation. Valuation related exam is conducted, clear that exam, become a registered valuer, and become a registered valuer. And whenever companies issuing shares or dealing in shares, many a times they need valuation certificate. You can give valuation certificate. MCS includes valuations, giving valuations services. MCS include insolvency professional. MCS include giving insolvency services also. That is covered in MCS. So MCS covered all these things, and lastly it covers three things: administrative services, valuation of shares, and insolvency services also. Whatever is covered in MCS, that can be given by practicing chartered accountants. Whatever is not covered, that cannot be given by practicing chartered accountants. Those who are not having COP can do anything. Those who are not having COP can do other activities. For example, I'm clearing a doubt. Okay. Practicing chartered accountant can do investment advisory. He cannot do broking, portfolio management, underwriting. Yes, non-practicing chartered accountant can go for broking, he can go for portfolio management services, he can go for underwriting. Non-practicing chartered accountant, I'm saying. Okay. I hope this is clear. If you got any doubt, please post it right now. Please post it. Okay, guys, we are going to take a break of 5-10 minutes, and then we'll be back with the remaining part. It's going to be very interesting.